Good morning, Cesar Grozavu. Thank you so much for your time this morning. You are very busy in the region between Romania and Ukraine with a lot of projects. I see you regularly. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Now, if we jump, so to say, right in the middle of the matter, and the subject matter is regional cooperation, very much important in an EU context, but in our particular case also for the border region between Romania and Ukraine. And of course, regional cooperation is one of the support schemes of the EU inside the EU, and then also with the border regions. Now, if you look back at Romania's process into the European Union and thereafter, there are probably some lessons learned that might be important for Ukraine to consider. Is there something that you recall from that time that might still bear for today?
It's a very good question indeed. On session period, the focus was made on infrastructure. The need of infrastructure in eastern country is huge, especially nowadays in Ukraine as a result of the war effects. In Romania, the situation was similar like in all eastern European countries. All the infrastructure, all hospitals, weak roads, so the situation wasn't well at all. But the pre-accession funds successfully step by step through pilot project and with not so much money, let's be honest, yeah. An ordinary project was 20,000 euros, and nowadays a regular project is 2 million euros, made a little bit the difference. So what I want to say that in time, the development, it's a process timing, a long process timing, so the expectation should be adapted to the local condition, the knowledge, the money availability. Indeed, yeah, it's not only about the money, it's also about the process. So for Romania, it was a tricky process for Romania and Bulgaria. They start quite slowly the process of integration in terms, first of all, of adapt the legislation, which is a very important sector. Nowadays, we know the opening chapters for Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldavia, for example, but that are coming with a full set of negotiation. And John, here you have full of expertise related to Romanian integration. So on one hand are the projects and the implementation, but on the other hand are the available resources. Also, the contribution of the national authorities of the community. Related to our border cooperation, indeed, usually the border regions are, let's say, behind the overall development of the country. That's the reason why European Union try to help them in order to generate added value, to contribute to, in order to reduce the disparity of European level. So for us, imagine that we were the external border of EU with Ukraine, and even the longest, we are the longest external border of EU-Ukraine, more than 660 kilometers. So in that order, we receive this kind of pre-accession and nowadays Interreg funds, whose goal is to reduce disparities and to improve the cooperation through different people-to-people or infrastructure projects in the border areas. Indeed, for Ukrainian counterparts, they benefit from this kind of project till now. Let me mention the Romania-Ukraine nowadays programs, the previous Romania-Moldova-Ukraine program on that southeastern part of Europe, or a little bit northern, the previous trilateral Ukraine-Poland-Belarus program, and nowadays Ukraine-Poland. As you probably know, in this period, Belarus and Russia were excluded from EU financing, so that's the reason why today Belarus or Russia are no longer active members in these transnational or bilateral programs. And the good news is that the budget allocated for these countries, were redirected, and Romania, Poland, and Moldavia received extra money for cross-border cooperation through Interreg project. And the last remark today, in Antwerp, in Belgium, Ukraine is invited to be part of the big family of Interreg, where another chapter of cooperation between regions of Ukraine, Oblast, and European regions of Europe will be possible.
Excellent overview. Thank you so much for this, and that will be definitely helpful for our participants to understand that better. Now, the process of becoming an EU member also comes hand in hand with a huge economic transformation process. And you were already a little bit touching on this. Now, if you look what you see already happening in Ukraine, is there anything also against your past experience that this country could try to, let's say, avoid or do better?
There are different situation. For Romania was a very hard start when different kind of privatization process start after the revolution. Not all of them successfully, unfortunately. That generate huge frustration, problems, inflation. So the period wasn't happy at all for Romanians, but also Poland or Hungary or the rest of the Eastern former communist countries. Nowadays, which, for my perspective, we should take advantage of each crisis which occur, unfortunately, without to know for some of them. So, if I am allowed, I made a kind of recommendation. Look what happens with COVID, when all the borders was closed, when the economic activities were, some of them completely closed, but that generated as a result a huge digitalization process. Mm-hmm. Imagine for us, we cannot send papers to beneficiary on the other side of the border, and the project, according to the legal agreements, should end it soon. So we are forced to develop, so that generate the digitalization process. From one hand, so nowadays our projects are completely on the electronic platform, use electronic signature and things like that. Yes. Ukraine nowadays, we saw it's a good example of digitalization in terms of public services, in terms of combating the internet attacks, in terms of made the entire process with the people, but also with the business sector more easy. So yes, can be a good starting point. The regulation, which are a lot in terms of economics, each country will have to obey. Some of them for sure won't be competitive in the market. Some of them are too polluting for the EU standards. So will be many challenges in terms of adapt the previous communist approach related to economy to a more open, more green, more digital Europe. So will be plenty of changes, but as I mentioned, we should take good part of each crisis. Yeah, and after, as you know, after the COVID, the war started. So that raised another huge crisis in terms of collaboration. Imagine that no one of our beneficiary cancels the project, which was a very important feedback, and they are willing to end the project in very difficult condition. Our beneficiary, for example, infrastructure in Ismail city was drone attacked half a year ago, and they start to rebuild it. But one subject which is very important to know, it's about the transparency and this good financial management, because this gonna be a big challenge for Ukrainian counterparts in order to have proper public acquisition, in order to be transparent, in order the state have a good institution related to the all traceability of the payments from Court of Auditors, national authorities, independent evaluators, and a good financial team in each actor, from public to private. So yes, the fight against corruption, it's a well-known story in countries like Romania, Bulgaria. So for Ukrainian will be another challenging story related to the this kind of oligarchs, this kind of monopoly of different strategic industries in the hand of some people. The appetite for EU money is very high, like everywhere, let's be honest, especially in terms of infrastructure or weak countries, weak, not so well developed country, let's be honest, they have to assure a proper also financial management for the EU in order to implement in good conditions the EU money.
You make an excellent point, and moving maybe away from the concentration that you rightly mentioned in the economic players, but also the state officials, even at a local level, they need to understand the many changes that will come with the membership. In your current work, do you see that they get, let's say, mentally ready for that big change, or is there still a lot of work to be done, for example, by civil society looking after that process of changing the behavior?
From my personal perspective, there are two sides of Ukraine, the Western and the Eastern. The Western, because also the links, connective and history are more linked to the European neighborhood country, and they are usually using this EU approach related to the project implementation. So they are fighting to get money, they have the knowledge, and if we are talking about Lvov University, no longer than them, many EU projects from Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, three national program were financed there. So Lvov, Chernovtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, in the border areas, even Odessa, but nowadays Odessa is under fire, so it's a little bit difficult to discuss there about the project, are more than open to implement project, and they have the knowledge. Imagine that this kind of cooperation started 18 years ago. So stakeholders like city halls, like different kind of NGOs, like hospital, like special intervention unit, like police, like Guard in Ukraine, have the knowledge and receive EU funds. So they know all this kind of project cycle management. And from that perspective, it's a huge achievement. Not the same situation, unfortunately, if you are going to the East, because of lack of this approach through dedicated structural funding process, which in fact, when you only wait the money to come from the central administration, it's not always a winning situation.
Yeah, and then of course comes, hopefully sooner than later, the big challenge of the reconstruction of the country. And that, I think, will be a big challenge both for Ukraine, but also for the EU. In West Germany, where I'm coming from, we had the example of the Marshall Plan. So do we need some big concerted action for Ukraine as well? Or how do you look at the reconstruction question?
The opinions are split different approaches. Thanks to Ukrainian embassy in Bucharest, I was part in a meeting half year ago in Kiev, and I listened Mr. Zelensky vision related to the reconstruction of Ukraine. It was a historic moment because also Jens Stoltenberg, NATO chief, for his first visit there, and send a huge solidarity signal for Ukrainian society. The President Zelensky invite region from Europe to make a kind of twinning process with similar oblast of Ukraine, which can, as an analysis, can have good points, but also weak points. Overall, it's an open invitation to help and have direct contact and assist them. On other hand, can generate disparities overall, because we cannot know how long this process will be. One power has, for example, Baden-Württemberg region from Germany in order to invest, I don't know, in his twinning region near Donbass, and one power have a Bulgarian region in order to invest in the same area. So let's be honest, this assistance, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of know-how, yes, can generate overall in time different disparities. And that is not only a process of short-time assistance, like we are nowadays obliged to work with different exposed groups. It's a long process. And German example of reunification and the cost of reunification is more than interesting in terms how long the process of development on reduce the disparities between different regions of the same country can take, and how long it took. Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Grozavu, a wholehearted thank you for your time this morning, and I think this will enrich our discussion about that part of the EU integration for Ukraine, which we all hope will be starting sooner than later. All the best wishes to you and success with the many projects that benefit both your country and your neighboring Ukraine.
Thank you once again, and thank you also from me as a Romanian citizen for your efforts and your input in EU integration of my country into European family. Thank you once again, and good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.